Hello, welcome to Dog Food with Catherine Abel, the show about dogs that feeds the mind and spirit. My book, The Depth of Dogs, is available online everywhere and on Amazon as the ebook. And please do buy the ebook. I appreciate it. And if you like dogs, if you love dogs, you will enjoy that book. Today's story is Always Awake. A tale of high drama in the make-believe town of Winston, Louisiana. However, the high drama, not so make-believe. It's 6:30 on a workday morning. The sun will soon say hello to the world, including even Winston, Louisiana. The location is a round oak kitchen table. Leaves can be added to the table to make it big enough for 12 people. Jack and Ina have no problem filling the table. They even need to add 2 chairs and 2 baby chairs when the kids come home at Christmas. With Gil getting married next year, they might even have to add another leaf, have one made so the entire family can gather together once a year at the same table, look at one another, touch one another, listen to one another's stories, build one another, help, not harm, love, not disdain, nurture, not ignore. Jack and Ina are not speaking. No words are necessary. They've made up their minds, and they're going to do it. We're really going to do it, Jack. Yes, Ina. You thought up the plan, and it's rock solid. That incredible brain of yours never ceases to amaze me. It's one thing to think up a wily scenario. It's a whole other thing to put it into action. We will not fail. We can't fail. It's a matter of life and death. I know, Ina. I know. Jack drinks the last gulp of his still warm coffee, stands up and bends forward to kiss his wife. He was aiming for her forehead, but she lifts her head and kisses him full and long on the mouth. A kiss that says, help me, fortify me, I love you, and thank you. Jack kisses her with passion and sincerity. His desire for her over the course of 34 years of sacred marriage, never waning, only growing. Married at 21, first child at 23, twins at 26, followed by 2 more children at 30 and 34. They have grown up together. He loves this woman, admires and respects her character, and is in awe of her mind and spirit. He's always told their children and grandchildren that when he grows up, he wants to be just like her. So while the kiss is a surprise, it's quickly met with all the desire and enduring passion both still feel for one another. He is the one to reluctantly break away. He takes her hand and brings it to his mouth, kissing the back of it, then gently turning it over to kiss the palm. His brown eyes looking into hers, he says, we got this. Those idiots don't stand a chance. We're talking about a lot of idiots, Jack. Those miscreants next door, animal control, the mayor, his assistant, the entire police department. That's a lot of idiots. Yes, it is. And we must remember through the entirety of this plan that they are idiots, not us, even though they all think it's the other way around. They are wrong. 2 lives, a new life. We will succeed. Your plan will not fail. At 9 a.m., the plan goes into action. Lathan Morse, first cousin to Wes Morse, who works for Jack's repurposing company, No Toss, but does not work for No Toss, but instead works for the water company, so has a legitimate and legal reason to be on the offending property, which he is right now approaching. Lathan steps foot on the property at exactly 9:10 a.m. As instructed, he has driven up and down the length of Harlem Street to reconnoiter the site where the crimes are taking place every day, all day long. The drive up and down the length of Harlem is to acquaint himself with the layout of the property so he can walk confidently into the backyard where the crimes are taking place, take videos and photos before calling the police. Then the police will refer him to the derelict alcoholic animal control officer, Mr. Delp, who will do absolutely nothing but stand weaving back and forth and staring malevolently with his yellow eyes into the wide-awake, steady gaze of Lathan Morse, who's 42 years old, no criminal record, college and Votech graduate, husband to Livonia, and father to Heather and Lathan Jr., who possesses a sober, civic-minded judgment and the beginning of a paper trail. Not to mention, he has been an honored employee of the water company for the past 10 years. Oh yeah, this plan is for real, and it's happening right now. Lathan's hand shakes so much on his first attempts to take photos and videos, he has to stop, turn away, take a deep breath, and gather himself. He'd been told in explicit detail exactly what he would find, but when he actually sees it, he thinks he might faint from the palpable sorrow and despair washing over him, which emanates in waves from the two victims. They told him, but he didn't know it would be this bad. Who does this? What kind of human being? No, this terrible scene of suffering in front of him is not the work of human beings. He doesn't know anything about Vaughty and Cheyenne Greenwell, but after seeing what he has to look away from seeing, he doesn't ever want to know them. Who can call themselves a human being and do this to another living being? What's wrong with them? Who taught them that this is ever okay? He pulls himself together, turns back to the victims, turns on the phone which records in 8K, and proceeds to follow the plan. He has the written report in the truck. All he has to do is turn it in today. Once the police fob him off and Mr. Delp refuses to do his job, he'll hand the typed report to the mayor, the police, the assistant to the mayor, and that's all. Lathan pushes the record button and tries his best while failing miserably to not look the victims in the eyes. The police refer him to the animal control officer. Lathan calls Mr. Delp, and though he has been informed as to what will happen, he's shocked when it actually does. He's wearing the UHD camera posing as sunglasses when Mr. Delp drives up in the Winston City truck. Lathan does not identify himself as a water company employee to the animal control officer. Mr. Delp sees the water company insignia on the gray truck parked in front of the undeniably guilty Harlem Street address. There's another man in the truck with Mr. Delp, but he does not exit the truck. Mr. Delp hikes up his pants and spits into the yard before proceeding to the backyard where Lathan is standing behind and between the crimes being committed. He has been instructed to speak as little as possible. He waits while Mr. Delp makes his way back, taking his own sweet time. The sunglasses film his slow approach and blatant lack of interest. When he's within 10 feet of the scene of the crimes, he stops, looks down at the living beings in their illegal circumstances, then looks up at Lathan and asks, "Oh, what's the problem? I don't see anything wrong here." Lathan wants very much to walk over to the man and punch him in the face. This is legal? This? What? The way these two dogs are being forced to live, isn't it against the law? Maybe they can't afford food, or adequate housing, or water from the tap. They have no water, no food, no adequate housing, and the German Shepherd is living on a 3-foot-long chain. Maybe that's all they can afford. Tap water? They can't afford tap water? Do you see that neither can turn around or stand up in the, or even fully fit into the, man, what do you want me to do? You want these dogs? Is that what this is about? What's wrong? Ain't nothing wrong here. Even though he has been informed as to what will happen, he's shocked when Mr. Delp turns and leaves. "Do your job, man!" Lathan yells because he can't help it. But Mr. Delp just waves him away, gets back into the truck, and drives off. The drooping eyes of his slumped passenger stare blankly at Lathan as the truck drives away from the scene of the crimes. Lathan doesn't know Ina has lined up 20 calls today, where the apathy of Mr. Delp will be filmed, documented, and shortly shared on a social media channel that cannot be traced to anyone known or capable of being blamed. The hardest thing he's ever done in his life is walk away from the scene before him. If he didn't know what he knows, he'd never be able to do it. Wilma Ann Burrow is sitting in front of the mayor's desk at the very moment Mr. Delp is getting back into the city truck he uses for personal pursuits while on the clock. Lonnie "Crack" Townsend is sitting behind his desk, wondering when he can order a double cheeseburger, chili cheese fries, and a giant soda with crushed ice. He loves crushed ice in his sodas. Should he send his assistant Lois now, or one of the police officers next door? He knows Wilma Ann Burrow. This isn't the first time she has sat in front of him. She's an idiot. Today he's going to lay down directives. If she wants to keep coming in here reporting these time-wasting, senseless, stupid incidences, he's going to put her to work. Why should his people do everything? What do you want me to do, Mrs. Burrow? Mayor Crack, I want you to encourage your police force and animal control personnel to uphold the law. Ever since you were elected, the crime rate in Winston has escalated. Your officers do not investigate crimes. They do nothing to stem the tide of crime that's rising and rising. May I remind you that next year is an election year? He knows next year is an election year. He's confident he'll be reelected. Everybody tells him he will be, so he figures he's going to be sitting behind this desk for another 4 years. Yesterday, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I saw a teenager walking around with a rifle in the middle of a neighborhood, in the middle of the city. How do you know it was a rifle? It may have been a BB gun. Wilma Ann, with the UHD camera glasses on her face Ina gave her last week, just stares at him. Punching him in the face would be a useless gesture. He's too far gone. Bloated not only with his personal corpulence, but with confidence and power. He has no idea his world is about to crumble beneath him. Wilma Ann was born and reared not too far from this very office. She loves this small city of Winston, Louisiana, but a succession of lying, lazy mayors have poisoned not only the law enforcement agencies in the city, but their greedy, self-seeking manipulation and self-seeking decisions have begun to poison everything. What in the world is a teenager doing walking around at 10 o'clock in the morning on school day with a rifle? Excuse me, Mayor Crack, what did you say? Lonnie Townsend is sick and tired of people coming in here trying to tell him how to do his job. They come in here wasting his time, and it's over. He's ending it now. They want to put him to work? Well, then, he can put them to work, too. Do you know who lives on Western Street where you allege a crime is being committed? According to Louisiana Revised Statute 14102, a crime is being committed on Western Street. There is a large, unneutered dog living in his waste with no food or water. He can eat the handful of kibble in the dirt, but he'll have to eat his feces as well. That's against the law. He has no shelter from the broiling sun. The heat index yesterday was 119. Today it's supposed to be 120. Does he want a double cheeseburger with chili cheese fries, or does he want the 8-rib plate with 3 generous sides from his cousin's new food trailer? His cousin can cook some barbecue, there's no doubt about that. Somebody told him the coleslaw is out of this world. The one thing he doesn't like is the bread. He wants a roll or a bun, not the inevitably flabby Texas sliced toasted bread. Maybe they're good when they come right out of the oven, but he has never had any that had any crunch to them at all, except for those his wife Nettie makes at home, and he's standing right there when they come out of the oven. So delicious. The edges are crusted to perfection, and when he bites into the slices, the taste explodes in his mouth. Nettie always spreads the exact right amount of real butter on the bread. His cousin puts too much butter on the bread and makes him taste greasy. He has to use so many napkins when he eats them. He wonders if his cousin is actually using real butter. Maybe that's where they're greasy. It's margarine or that fake butter he sees in tubs at all those booths during the annual Natural Fish Festival. Wilma Ann is sitting silently in the brown leather sofa across from the mayor. She sank deep into the cushions when she sat down. Her sunken position on the sofa puts her 2 feet below the vision line of the mayor. She wonders if this was deliberate. She's probably overthinking it. The sofa is large enough for him to comfortably sleep on it. That, more than likely, is the reason for its placement and the reason for the descent into the cushions. His weight has deformed the springs. She's looking up at him as he looks down at her. There is no expression on her face, and she believes she has successfully quieted her breathing so the camera glasses are recording the sonorous fat breathing of the mayor and Lois. Poor Crack. He has no idea what is about to befall him. Such a tragedy. He could have avoided it all and probably been reelected if he had just done his job and encouraged and supported others in the doing of theirs. The clean never make the unclean clean. They poison their environment and all who are cursed to be in it. Wilma Ann turns her head, and the UHD camera glasses to the left, where Lois is sitting at the conference table with a blank notepad in front of her. This early in the morning, and she's falling asleep. She needs to quit this job. It's all such a shame. It all could have been avoided. Lois has gained so much weight since being hired as a mayor's assistant, at least 100 pounds easily. She looks exhausted and miserable. Poison never heals, never fixes anything. It only knows how to destroy. She heard that son of hers quit the football team last week. At least he wasn't walking around with a rifle at 10 o'clock in the morning on a school day. She has no thoughts or words for Mr. Delp, who entered with a strut and is sitting on a wood chair next to the sofa. What's the point of trying to educate a bucket of rocks? Still, Mayor Crack, Mrs. Burra. People address me as Mayor Townsend. That's the proper form of address. But for how much longer? The fat, alcohol-infused breathing in the room stops completely. Wilma Ann might enjoy the look of astonishment mingled with rage on Crack's face if the situation were not so deplorable. She's on the verge of warning him of what's happening when he opens his mouth and damns himself to professional hell. Mrs. Burra, it's up to you. Before you call the police or animal control, it's your responsibility to find out as much as you can about the alleged crime. How do you suggest I do this? Well, go knock on the door and get their names and point out a crime is being committed and ask if they knew about it. When you have the pertinent data collected, write a report and submit your findings to the police. If the police deem it warrants attention, they'll act on it, if a real crime is being committed. Do I get a bulletproof vest today? No. She feels sorry for him. Her rising anger evaporates because she knows what's about to happen to this lazy, irresponsible, and truly despicable man. Within a 2-week time span or less, he will have no job. His wife will kick him out. His mistresses, except for the one who's addicted to heroin, will not allow him to stay with them, not once they become aware of all the others. In 3 days' time, even the police force will begin to avoid him. Lonnie Crack Townsend has assiduously nurtured the weeds in his garden for far too long, and those weeds are about to choke the living things in his life way, way out of his terribly designed garden. Wilma Ann sighs deeply. For the camera, Ina, Jack, and those 2 dogs living in dedicated squalor next door to them, she says, "So, Your Honor, you're saying that when I see a crime being committed inside city limits, I'm to stop my car, get out, approach the home of the perpetrators, knock on the door, verify their identities, apprise them of the illegality of their actions and possible repercussions for breaking the exact law which I will recite to them, get all information related to the crimes being committed, and, if I'm still alive, write up a thorough report, then come to the police and report my findings." Exactly. Wilma turns to Lois and Delp so their excited nodding is immortalized. She wonders if Mr. Delp's eyes will look as yellow on camera as they do in person. Turning back to the mayor, she says, "You can't do that." "Why not? You can look up stuff online just like we can." "Then what is the purpose of the city police? Or Mr. Delp?" Abner Stannard is pretending to run an errand. The camera glasses he's wearing take in the scene on Harlem Street, and, as instructed, he stops his bicycle in front of the home and calls the police, who refer him to Mr. Delp, who refuses to come to the address where the 2 dogs are suffering in the backyard. The conversations and exact times are automatically recorded by the audible component of the camera glasses. Also recorded by the camera glasses is the time that passes while Abner waits on law enforcement to arrive. 1 hour. No one shows up. Abner pedals off and, pushing down his anger, remembers the scope of this plan and is gratified to have been asked to be a part of it. Something has got to change in this state. Why not start here? At 4 o'clock, when Cheyenne Greenwell arrives home, it's pouring rain. She notices a blue Toyota RAV parked on the street in front of her home. As she pulls into her driveway, she sees 2 middle-aged women sitting in the front seats. The one wearing the glasses is watching her as closely as she's watching them. The other woman is on her phone as she looks up and down from it into her backyard. What is she? She stops her car in front of the washing machine sitting in front of the carport. She would gladly use the carport if it weren't filled with boxes full of paraphernalia and decorations for her anticipated beauty salon opening. The opening, which has been anticipated for 10 years now. Thoughts of anticipation are all that have occurred, other than the sporadic acquisition of decorations and tools for her shop. Mostly in the boxes are decorations, not chemicals, not combs, not gloves, not brushes, not hair dryers, or curling irons. Cheyenne has always said, "Who wants to sit in a place for hours that's not pretty?" She wouldn't want to. Vaudy, her husband, supports her verbally whenever he's prompted to do so. A colony of mice have made fine, comfortable homes in the 2 bottom rows of the boxes. They're the only animals fed, watered, and content on this property. Confident because of being undisturbed for so many years, 20 of the bravest in the colony have moved to the top 2 rows after the team of volunteer explorers informed them of the safe luxury living available to them. It won't be long at all before those on the lower rows hear about the soft silk flowers and start producing enough offspring to accommodate the exciting new space. Cheyenne kills the engine on her new Honda Accord. The car is red, perfect, and has 14 miles on the odometer. She looks into the rearview mirror to check her hair and makeup. When she exits the car, she's ready. That's the motto she'll have painted on one wall of her future salon. Step out, be ready. Her mocha fuchsia cherry flavored lipstick is flawless, thanks to the Rouge chocolate lip liner. All she has to do before getting out of her new gorgeous smelling car is apply her plum glazed lip gloss. She does so expertly while admiring her recent purchase of exaggerated fake eyelashes. They are so sweet. On the tips of the ends of each eyelash is the tiniest crystal that looks exactly like a real diamond. Louisiana Peacock asks Charity Rogers, "What's she doing?" Charity pulls her sad eyes away from the scene in the backyard to watch Cheyenne. She's putting on makeup in her new car. "That's a new car?" "Brand new Honda Accord. She just bought it from my son," Charity informs her. "How much do they cost?" "Thousands of pounds of good, nutritious dog food, tons of bales of good, clean straw, hundreds of adequate shelter choices for dogs, shelters that, when lined on the bottom with generous amounts of straw, will keep her dogs dry, warm, and convey a feeling of care." "Don't cry, Charity." "I can't help it, Lavinia. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us in the South that we have to formulate an elaborate plan to save animals? Shouldn't that be simple? Don't harm animals. Don't neglect animals. Don't look away if you see animals being harmed due to deliberate neglect. What's wrong with us?" "I don't know, but a lot. These 2 will be safe in less than 30 minutes. "How long have they been back there?" "Ina says they kill 2 through neglect and get 2 more. People give the dogs to them." "Are the police coming?" "No. Don't even waste your breath. She's too young to be that fat." "Showtime." "Hold on. Look who's showing up after an hour and 10 phone calls." Lavinia is the designated camera glasses wearer, and she proceeds to expertly execute her assignment. The same assignment that went out with 26 others. Record everything. She stares at Mr. Delp pulling in front of her car until they almost touch. She and the camera glasses watch as he stares malevolently at her with his yellow eyes. "I can see his yellow eyes from here. That man is sick," says Charity, in more ways than one. The ladies wait to exit their vehicle at the same exact time as Mr. Delp. To add even more drama to the terrible event, Charity and Lavinia have been instructed to do what Mr. Delp does. He walks, they walk. He spits, they spit. When he goes bazonkers, they let him and record everything. While Mr. Delp and the two middle-aged women in comfortable clothing congregate in her front yard, Cheyenne texts Vaughty. He won't get home for another 30 minutes. When two sheriff's deputies pull up in front of her house, she snaps a photo of herself looking at them in the rearview mirror. It takes a moment because the 3-inch-long glamour nails require extra skills. She plays with several Instagram filters until deciding on Paris. She likes the way it makes her lips look extra glossy. She sends it to Vaughty to let him know what's going on at their home. Time, 4:31 p.m. Mr. Delp, Lavinia Peacock, Charity Rogers, Cheyenne Greenwell, deputies Tom Hill and Martha Smithson are standing in front of the two rusted, broken metal crates, staring at what's inside them as a gentle rain works into a furious downpour. There are no city police, though this address is on Harlem Street, which is geographically within city limits. "This is the 5th time I've been called out here this week, and the 3rd time today," Mr. Delp states angrily until the camera glasses perch safely on Lavinia's face. From beneath her sturdy pink golf umbrella, Charity asks, "Then why haven't you done anything? If you've been made aware of the criminal suffering of these dogs, why haven't you done anything? It's your job." Mr. Delp hates them. He hates them all so much that his rage explodes all over the place before he can help it. The worst of it is that he thinks everyone except the stupid old ladies are on his side. The rainfall intensifies as his fury incinerates him. "What do you want me to do? They're just stupid dogs. What do you want me to do? They don't care. I don't care. Nobody cares. You want to do what? Kill them? What do you want me to do? I am so sick and tired of people calling about some dumb animal suffering, being starved, no shelter, dead puppies. Who cares? They're just dogs. Nobody cares. You want to do my job? You do it." Mr. Delp's arms are flailing wildly as he screams this at the top of his lungs. The two deputies were informed of the animal control officer's indifference, but they hadn't believed it. They don't understand having a job and getting paid for a job you have no intention of doing. Also, having serious contempt for the ones you're supposed to be protecting should have been the clue to not hire this guy. "You want me to arrest him? What do you want me to do? It's just two stupid dogs." As Mr. Delp moves toward the chained, purebred white Labrador retriever as if to kick her, the deputies move in quickly and restrain him. Mr. Delp looks at them in shock as they approach him with a securing intent. "Oh, no, not because of some stupid dogs. It's their dogs, not mine," he screams at the encroaching and real menace of the two deputies. The city police have always backed him 100% because the mayor always did. They all thought all animals are stupid, only to be used for profit or food consumption. That's their purpose, nothing else. He looks over at the two gray-haired ladies watching him, calm and dry beneath their oversized umbrellas. Even the deputies are wearing rainproof slickers, somewhat prepared for the weather of this insane meeting. Mr. Delp does what he has wanted to do for years. He leaps at the two women, his strong hands outstretched to grab necks, to strangle, to claw eyes blind. But as in every single endeavor he has ever undertaken in his selfish, furious, inconvenient life, he fails. Deputies Tom and Marla competently subdue him in less than 3 seconds, with no injury to themselves or to Mr. Delp. Mr. Delp is face down on the muddy ground while the purebred German shepherd watches from his place beside the tree. He can't move more than 2 feet in any direction because he somehow wound the chain around the dead tree trunk, and no one ever thought to help him unwind it. Or so he believed. He watches the man flailing on the muddy, increasingly wet ground, sinking lower and lower into the soaking earth as his violent gyrations form a hole that fills with rapidly falling water. When it dawns on Mr. Delp that he's almost underwater, he yells, "Help me! Somebody help me! I'm drowning!" "Young lady, would you unwind your dog from the tree, please?" asked Lavinia, looking straight at Cheyenne. "It's raining. I'll do it later." Deputy Tom and Deputy Marla turn to Cheyenne and wait, expectantly. Cheyenne Greenwell, umbrellaless and with a day-old $300 hairstyle, looks at them and says, "It's just dogs." "Officer, the crate shelter is obviously damaged and does not provide adequate coverage as is required by law. Not to mention, it appears the dogs are being deliberately starved to death," Charity says quietly. "You can see that now, with all the rain. Their wet coats tell of the neglect their family has forced them to suffer," Lavinia states for the camera glasses. Cheyenne can see it too. It can't be denied. When was the last time they were fed? She doesn't know. In court in 2 weeks' time, she'll admit she never fed them, that was Vaughty's job. Vaughty will remain silent because that's what his court-appointed lawyer advised him to do. They will serve no jail time. They will pay a fine that wipes out their giant screen television fund. They will immediately go out to eat after the soft verdict of a lifetime ban of animals. They will overindulge and not feel sick because their bellies are accustomed to overindulgence. The fact they have been forbidden by the judge to never have any animals of any kind or risk mandatory jail sentences doesn't faze them in the least. It just makes their property more attractive, and in a way, brings relief. When Mr. Delp is escorted from his walla to the deputy's vehicle, his anger still rides him. He's confused when he sees a dark blue sedan on the street next to his city truck that he has so many good times in, riding around drinking because he's an active alcoholic, smoking weed because he supplies crack with his. When he remembers crack, he stands taller, confident this debacle will soon be over before the hour is up, and he'll be clean and dry and back behind the wheel of the city truck doing whatever he feels like. Within an hour, he'll be home smoking some primo weed after he eats a bowl full of chicken and sausage gumbo. The sheriff's deputies don't know who the dark-suited men are standing beneath big black umbrellas beside their dark sedan. They soon will. Their approach to their vehicle is halted by shiny federal badges, legitimate, laminated federal ID cards, and a perfect subpoena. When they instruct Mr. Delp to surrender his city-paid cell phone, he's stunned, then scared to death. All rage evaporates as desperation fills every cell in his body. He has a wild, animalistic response to the very real threat. He may be covered in mud, soaking wet, but he's not confused. He knows his life is over if they get his phone. Though his hands are cuffed in front of him, he raises them high and swings them viciously toward Deputy Marla, who graduated at the top of her anti-terrorism class. She steps backward to avoid the forceful blow, and with the coordination of a prima ballerina, smoothly pulls her stun gun from her right hip, and with one fluid, well-practiced movement, she places the serious end firmly against the front of Mr. Delp's exposed throat, igniting the fully charged device upon contact. While Mr. Delp is collapsed and frozen in pain on the wet ground, Ina's plan has lost none of its vigor or intent. She has been in her utility room, standing with her hands on the empty dryer, waiting for her cue. She has been watching every moment of the planned action unfold. Jack is outside in the Tahoe, engine running, waiting for her. She watches Cheyenne observe the smooth and effective subduing of Mr. Delp. She watches her brain take in the undeniable fact that there are 5 law enforcement agents in her front yard, 4 of whom who are actually enforcing the law, and no city police to take her side. Fear motivates her. She moves toward the German shepherd whom she has never touched, and with hands shaking and with disgust in her heart for both beasts, she is about to try to help the dog she has always ignored. She hates the dog even more when he backs away as far as he can from her. Can't he see she's trying to help him? Stupid dog! Cheyenne, what's going on? How can I help you? Cheyenne has never been so relieved to hear the voice of her nosy neighbor. She is always asking after these two dumb dogs, offering food, better shelter, medical treatment, spay-neuter vouchers, low-cost vaccines, blah, blah, blah. Cheyenne always sweetly declined every offer. It was none of her business anyhow. Yet now she's joyfully relieved to hear the clear-voiced concern in Ina's voice. Ina, somebody called the police on us again. I don't know what the big deal is about how these dogs live. Everybody does it. Ina wants so badly to speak her mind, to tell her that this is a lie from the pit of hell. Oddly, from somewhere deep inside her comes a wave of compassion for this misguided young woman who has been taught every wrong way to live there is. Her parents, her grandparents, her great-grandparents, her brothers and sisters, her friends, all have modeled to Cheyenne the absolute worst way to live and how to treat others. Chasing after the whims of appetite and sight only lead to a vacant way of living. If a human being thinks it's okay to chain other living beings out in the open with no proper shelter to shield them from rain, sleet, snow, extreme heat, and also to starve them, is that human being a human being at all? Ina does not have the years it would take to unteach Cheyenne and Vaughty all the wrong things they've been taught about living. She doesn't have time because Phoebe and Gus don't have time. She knows these dogs she has watched and tried to help for the past 6 months will soon be dead if she does not follow through on this penultimate step in her plan. She remembers when she looked out of her utility room window as she was folding clean clothes one day, and the profound relief she felt at the sight she saw. Those two rusted, crooked, bent metal crates in Cheyenne and Vaughty's backyard were empty. The ship chains lay flaccid on the ground. She thought that maybe her gentle meddling had finally penetrated. It had not. Not long after, there appeared a German shepherd puppy who couldn't have been 12 weeks old. He was given a wide collar by the uninterested hands of Vaughty and attached to a chain he could not lift. The police and Mr. Delp were called repeatedly, and repeatedly did nothing. Not even 2 months later, a pure white Labrador puppy appeared attached to the other chain. The German shepherd puppy could almost walk forward on his chain. She can't bear to remember the puny, pitiful efforts of Phoebe. How does one witness a crime day after day after day and do nothing to stop it? Ina has no idea. She isn't made that way. Her patiently voiced concerns to the Greenwells were ignored. She repeated the crimes to the police, which they ignored. And when she could no longer bear to watch the puppies struggling to stand with the ship chains attached to the wide collars, she acted. She bought lighter chains, chains they could lift so they could roll around, walk, almost reach one another. The Greenwells never noticed the switched chains. It was all so appalling. It made her think. It opened her eyes. It changed her. She told Jack everything she could no longer stand to see. As she cried in his arms, Jack began to consider life and the life of the one who meant everything to him. When they moved to Harlem Street those decades ago, it was different. Then it became unpleasantly different. Property crimes became more frequent, people moved away, and those who replaced them had no regard for life or stewardship. Tarps appeared on roofs owners refused to repair. Trash would overflow the bins and never be picked up because the homeowner couldn't be bothered to walk the bin 30 feet to the curb every Tuesday morning. Junked cars started appearing and staying in front yards. Broken windows became gray duct tape. Soffits and fascia boards were allowed to rot off. Too loud music was played more and more frequently, and young men and women who should have been at work were not, but were instead walking up and down Harlem Street at all hours of the day and night. "Let's move, Ina. Let's leave. And let's take the dogs. Try to do some good before we hit the road. You've always been the meticulous and successful planner in our family. Make a plan. I'll follow it." His love and confidence made her bold. The next morning at 4, she had switched out the chains the Greenwells never noticed. It became her habit that every morning at 4 she would walk next door to pet and feed their dogs. For 2 glorious months she did this, until the Greenwells' cars were broken into and they installed cameras on all 4 corners of the home. Her plan soon morphed into something grand and seemingly impossible. She moved forward even though it seemed crazy and sure to fail. It turned out the crazy part was all the people in Winston who were sick of watching the decline of their community and were ready to commit to anything she asked that promised to build life instead of tear it apart. As long as it didn't involve breaking the law. Ina assured them her plan was about restoring the law and even reinvigorating it. When she confirmed the dogs were not being fed, she purchased 3 pairs of camera glasses. Their son Gil was a tech and film wizard. He showed his parents how to use the apparatus effectively and how to send him the footage every day. Ina and Jack began aggressively, quietly, clandestinely making a plan to remove the animal control officer, the useless city police force, and the depraved mayor from their positions of authority and power. The more they spied, the more they filmed, the more they learned, the more it sickened them that the wrong people were in charge of too much. Their city and community were being destroyed from within. She found out how the mayor acquired the nickname Crack. It wasn't because he liked to crack jokes and crack everybody up, though he could be absolutely hilarious. Lonnie Townsend acquired the nickname Crack because he was a serial womanizer, more than likely a sex addict, but a sex addict with the organizational skills of Alexander the Great. Not long into her investigation, she learned that Lonnie Crack Townsend was something else. While he slept with hundreds of women all over North Louisiana, he was somehow able to keep every woman ignorant of all the others. Within 2 weeks of speaking with her Winlaking contacts, where Crack was born and raised, and people knew way too much about him to ever put him in charge of anything other than digging ditches, much less electing him to public office, Ina discovered he moved from Winlaking leaving 10 single women and 10 children with his DNA. He moved to Winston to embark on a new future. Though Winston is only an hour and a half from Winlaking, it could have been on the other side of the world. She found it so curious only one of his families moved with him, the legal wife and the only legitimate child he would ever have. His other 10 children and their baby mamas remained in Winlaking, where they reside to this day. None of the illegitimate children bear his name. Crack, his legal wife and legitimate son, moved to Winston 10 years ago. Crack continued to lie and cheat his way through life, but his easy way and the ability to make people laugh made him a very popular man. He was given jobs he had no skills to execute, but he knew how to manage people, and this particular skill soon got him where he wanted to be. In a 5-year time span, he'd successfully seduced 4 other women into becoming his mistresses. It was a spectacular feat that in a small city like Winston, where everyone knew everyone else, the women who became his mistresses remained completely ignorant of one another until Ina's plan went into action. The Winston mistresses had no children by Crack. A quick vasectomy in Shreveport 2 days before he moved solved that issue. His legal wife, who desired more children and was promised them when they married, had no idea Crack was shooting blanks over and over and over and over. But she would, because once Ina committed to something, she didn't back down. Ina is standing in the pouring rain, slipping the filthy, tattered collars over the fragile heads of Phoebe and Gus. Cheyenne retreated to the cover of the carport as soon as she could. She never looked back at the ones she held in contempt. The much more interesting spectacle of the stun gunning and arrest of Mr. Delp holds her full attention. She's engrossed in the action of the 4 law enforcement agents and the jerking, supine body of the animal control officer when the 2 middle-aged women gain her attention. They've followed Ina and stand behind her as she addresses Cheyenne Greenwell. She turns to see what they want and can't believe that Ina is holding those 2 sopping wet, filthy dogs in her arms, one on each side. Cheyenne, I am leaving now and would like to confirm for both the federal agents, the sheriff's department, and all assorted cameras that you have fully surrendered your 2 dogs to me. Cameras? What cameras is she talking about? Oh, they're home security cameras Vaughty never figured out how to connect. When are those old ladies leaving, and why are they staring at her? Yeah, they're yours, Ina. All yours. Whatever. What are their names? Names? Cheyenne shrugs and turns back to look at Mr. Delp still on the ground. The more he comes to, the more panic wars with his rage. It's like watching a TV show. Look at him trying to grab the phone from the agent. His yellow eyes have turned red, and she thinks he just might have a heart attack right here in front of her. Thank you for surrendering your dogs to me, Ina says loudly. So loudly that all law enforcement agents turn toward her, whereupon Lavinia and the camera glasses turn away from the troubled yet promising vision of Ina Gaither, soaking wet, holding 2 flop-weak dogs in her arms, to the official sight of all 4 agents looking, hearing, seeing, nodding, accepting, then turning back to the much more interesting sight of Mr. Delp regaining his motor skills enough to yell and curse at them at the top of his lungs. With a discreet, anticipated nod from Ina, Charity lightly nudges Lavinia and gestures at the glasses. Lavinia removes them from her face, folding down the arms as she does, which turns off the recording mechanism. They walk forward a step to cover 3 of the loveliest beings ever created with the generous spread of their umbrellas. From their new luxury condominiums under the carport, hundreds of mice watch and approve. As they escort Ina and her charges to her home next door, they see Jack is waiting with the Tahoe back passenger seat door wide open. The 4 human beings carefully place the 2 near listless dogs on the clean blankets covering the back seat. The 3 women hug and cry a little. Before closing the door, Jack leans in and kisses his wife on the lips like he means it. The sight is beautiful. His soaking wet wife feeding, hugging, covering them with dry, clean towels, encouraging 2 drenched, filthy dogs who just began the life they were created to live. He turns to Lavinia and Chastity and grabs them up in a bear hug before they can stop him. Hey, I want one on the lips too, you handsome thing. Me too, proclaims Charity, a smile returning to her face. Surprising them both, he responds completely and magnificently. Those women are kissed, and he means it. Before Jack and Ina take their dogs to the vet and Ravel for their appointment, which was scheduled 1 week ago, they stop at Lynette Reniger's to retrieve 22 pairs of camera glasses and the 4 banana boxes filled to the brim with documents. Jack hands his wife an overnight bag which contains clean dry clothes, soap, shampoo, and a clean towel that smells like their bathroom. He'll wait in the car with Phoebe and Gus. The names Ina gave them when she stole over at 4 o'clock in the morning that first time and held each one in her lap and started loving them forever. Phoebe means radiant, shining one. As Jack gently places his big hand on the exhausted, sleeping dog's still damp head, he has no doubt that once she's clean and regularly fed, she will be radiant. Her white double coat will be lustrous and soft and glisten like diamonds. He looks over at Gus, who's nervous, confused, and can barely keep his eyes open. He's exhausted from the pounding rain, the lack of food, the constant yelling and turmoil they always heard and feared. Gus, kind fellow, you are exceptional and outstanding, Jack whispers as he slowly climbs into the back seat with them. On the floorboard beneath Gus's chin is a folded pile of clean towels. Jack grabs two before he sits down between his two dogs. His gentle rubbing massages away tension. His kind murmuring eases confused minds. These two purebred dogs, bred to hunt, herd, seek, and find, bred for companionship, have never exercised any of the skills they possess. From the time they were 7 weeks old, they were chained to trees and never again willingly touched by the ones responsible for them. They were kicked hard when they jumped. They were slapped on their faces when they got too close to Vaughty. Vaughty and Cheyenne have never liked animals, but who can say no to free puppies? As Jack handles the uncertain dogs, he makes sure they can both see his hands. Their pupils are dilated, and he knows if given the opportunity, they'll bolt as fast as they can. When Ina opens the driver's side door, quickly getting inside, both dogs cower away, expecting something unpleasant because that's what they've been trained to do. Ina looks at them, at her husband, and she grins. Though they don't realize it, they're about to begin the grandest adventure of their lives. When they pull away from their home of 34 years, neither bothers to look back. They only have eyes for what's important. 2 years later, Ina is standing on the green, grassy bank of the lake bordering the south side of their property in Ohio. She is watching Phoebe swim toward her with confident, practiced strokes. There's a battered, bright red ball secured in her mouth that Ina has thrown out across the sun-sparkled water at least 10 times this morning. Her arms are strong from digging, shoveling, planting and harvesting vegetables, from picking up grandchildren, from tending to chickens and sheep, from pushing the wheelbarrow down tidy rows of plants that will feed more than just themselves and the 5 families belonging to them. The half-acre garden behind her will feed an entire community. Even though Phoebe's mouth is full of ball, she could swear her dog is smiling at her. Easily, naturally, a smile comes to her face. The light in her eyes is relaxed. She's at peace. She looks over at Gus, who's sitting not far from her, watching Phoebe swim and soaking in the replenishing power of the sun. There's not a cloud in the sky. Ina is still in awe at the beauty of this dog. His coat is gorgeous, so soft to touch, surprisingly dense to experience. His character is as beautiful as he is. He is affectionate, true, lovely with the grandchildren, and a natural watchdog. Suddenly he turns from observing his sister. Ina watches as he bolts toward the human he claimed for himself. 80 pounds of muscle, strength, and wondrous vitality. Ina knows exactly who it is because she laid claim to him as well almost 4 decades ago. Phoebe, with the prize in her grinning mouth, has eyes and a heart for everyone she meets. It's just the way she was made. She shakes off the water and Ina laughs as she's thoroughly sprayed. Phoebe places the ball at Ina's feet, but Ina just reaches down to pet her, to hold her head, and to kiss her on the cheek. She releases her and follows as Phoebe picks up the ball and runs toward Jack. He's crouched beside Gus and hugging him as though he hadn't done it this morning and again later this morning, because he loves Gus. Once Phoebe and Gus adjusted to a new way of existence, Gus and Jack bonded. Ina was as surprised as her husband. Not by the fact that Gus loves Jack so much, all living creatures seem to love Jack, but by the depth of his loyalty. Why should she be surprised? But she is. She's constantly surprised by the intelligence, The athleticism, the kindness, the patience, and the joy of these two dogs. She's also surprised and even a little chagrined at herself that she and Jack had not moved to Ohio years ago. Their eldest son received a full-ride scholarship to Ohio State University. What wasn't covered by the track and field department had been covered by the science, technology, and math department. Eric was followed by Maggie and Ty, then by Ellen, who attended Kenyon State. Gil followed them but refused to go to college because he said he didn't need it. Ina and Jack stopped offering advice to Gil when at 12 years old he made a short film that won an award he refused to accept. And then at 13 he started a business that did so well that when he sold it at age 18 he was able to buy the big red brick house Ina can see over the tops of the walnut trees. The surrounding 100 acres were purchased by the rest of the family. Why had it taken so long for them to wake up? Their children would ask. And then quiet, imaginative Gil, with his hands on Phoebe and Gus's heads, would tell his older siblings, "This is why. Mama and Daddy had to get them to safety and home to us. Not to mention, Mama had to get rid of some of the poison infecting Louisiana." It seems so long ago, surreal. Their lives in Ohio are so different, so calm and relaxed. It's as though they're on a different planet. The people who live around them, really almost everyone they've met in Ohio, care about life. It's evident in every encounter she has had the privilege of experiencing. Their children tried so many times to tell them, but Ina and Jack secretly thought they were making it up in an effort to woo them north. The way they went on about the lack of crime, how nice and sincere everyone was. Ina and Jack listened and nodded in approval without believing one word their caring, highly intelligent, and accomplished children told them. When you live in a war zone and the political landscape across the state is fraught with greed, crime, and apathy for all animals, it's difficult to imagine that life can, in that same country, be remarkably different somewhere else. But it is. It's different in Ohio. Where they're living seems like an otherworld dream. Sometimes Ina almost thinks she wishes they'd come sooner to this life that embraces life, all life. Then she looks down at beautiful, happy, thriving Gus and Phoebe and knows they came exactly when they were supposed to. Her smile meets the smile of her life partner, and her hand reaches for his outstretched hand. Jack pulls her to him and hugs her. They hug each other now more than they ever have. She has admitted that while not being a hateful person, living among the angry and hate-filled inevitably makes a terrible and real impact on those who must encounter the unpleasantness every day. How could it not? In the last 2 years, she has learned how joy can lift everything, how affirming life increases the enjoyment of life. Pride, greed, spite, selfishness, ignorance, and the vicious will bring low those who unwittingly choose to remain in a negative environment. They no longer give any thought to Crack Townsend, to Mr. Delp, or to anyone in the mayor's office or in the police force or animal control. Ina's intricate plan was executed to perfection and changed more than she'll ever know. Because of her actions and her younger son's skills, energy, and connections, Winston changed. Because of her determination to save Gus and Phoebe, she changed the attitudes of the entire parish. She hears about it from time to time. She's glad, yet saddened so many had to suffer because of the personal and physical desires of those who swore to protect and look out for the best interest of others. The 27 pairs of camera glasses, the deep background investigations performed by Gil, herself, her friends, and others in the community who were wise, compassionate, and wanted a good future for Winston, enabled sweeping changes to take place. What they got on film was revealing and shared with the entire world. Crack Johnson and Mr. Delp are in jail. Crack for egregious malfeasance in office, and Mr. Delp for the most degenerate pornography which filled the storage of his city cell phone. Mr. Delp will die in jail. When the extent of the illegal content on his city cell phone was revealed and the actual amount of time watching the degenerate content, it was no wonder he refused to do his job. Not only did he not care, he honestly didn't have time to do his job. The porn ate up his entire life. The FBI agents wondered to themselves if the man ever slept. Crack was stealing money from every department he could. He was stealing everything he could get his hands on. With the help of Lois and the city-paid police officers, he was getting confiscated weapons, drugs, cars, anything in lockup or on its way to lockup that could be sold for a profit. He had to, didn't he? How else could he afford 11 houses, 13 cars, 11 private school educations, dance lessons, tennis lessons, computers, cell phones, televisions? The list never ended or halted for a second. His text certainly revealed that. His confession and wide-sweeping tattletelling cleaned out the entire police department. Not one honest officer could be found. Lois escaped to Tunisia. Exactly 30 seconds after learning of the FBI involvement, she calmly told Mayor Crack she was going to get some fried chicken because she knew he'd never say, "No, we'll pick up some later." To this day, any size box of fried chicken can be successfully used to bribe 98% of the inhabitants in the South. No mention of sides or biscuits is necessary. With her 10% off the top of Crack's ill-gotten gains, Lois had quite a nest egg for herself for just keeping her mouth shut, never saying no, and for looking away for almost 3 years, the last 2 in earnest. The last 2 years had been hard to look away from all that was being done and not being done. But she did it. Her bank account and the suitcases full of money proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. She was indeed able to look away. Big time. By the time the Federal Bureau of Investigation turned their attention to Lois, she was standing behind a bar on a breathtaking beach in Hammamet, telling anyone who asks she has no family, no children. She's totally free. She's speaking fluent French with a patron because she learned that elegant language during her study year abroad. It helped that her always absent father was a full and natural citizen of said country. She never looked him up, but she did silently thank him for being from a country that did not extradite to the United States. As she competently shakes up 2 perfect lime daiquiris for 2 tanned Parisian tourists, the breeze blows smells of tranquility from the Mediterranean Sea. Lois is 40 years old and has her whole life ahead of her. She never looks back and soon forgets her child and that she was ever an American. As Ina peels the fresh tomatoes for the lunch salad, she glances out the kitchen window and pauses. What a glorious sight before her. The sun is shining. The temperature outside is perfect. It's Saturday, the day their entire family gathers to share a meal. She watches Eric, Ty, and Ellen place dinnerware and utensils on the long table Jack made and unveiled today. It's massive, and it's beautiful. Their family of 21 and counting can all sit down together, with room remaining for more. He told her he had to do something until they got no toss going here. She watches their 7 grandchildren running, crawling, and playing on the grass she nurtures for just those reasons. Humans can be such stubborn, blind creatures. Why did it sometimes require world-moving events to alter perspective, to wake up? Why do humans settle for lack and mind-numbing mediocrity when they are told of a land of plenty that even fosters love? Habits can be good and habits can be terrible. What will ensure death is the inability to change. We must accept that a life of wonder exists only if we're willing to change. We must leave a life of entrenched negative habits, say yes to thinking big, Be willing to explore our imaginations and by all means start living a dream that never should have been assigned to a floundering dormancy. Anna was in the attic yesterday when she came across 22 pairs of camera glasses and the banana boxes full of documents which sealed so many fates. She thought about throwing it all away. Then she remembered with a mischievous smile that 5 pairs of camera glasses remained in Winston with very adept users and teachers. Some things aren't over even when they seem to be. Lady Justice may seem to be elusive, but she's inexorable. She's always awake and always working. This has been Dog Food with Catherine Abel. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for buying my book, my ebook, The Depth of Dogs, on Amazon. I appreciate it, and so do the dogs.